Hey everybody, it's Chris Jesty, and this time around we're going to be casting a match from Cameron Heath. This happened about a month, almost 2 months ago. It's been a while since I've recorded match casting. Recording by yourself isn't quite as fun as you might think it is. It's makes the time go by a lot quicker when there's another person casting with you. So if you're out there and you're interested in casting some matches with me, let me know. My availability is pretty scarce, so that's probably part of the reason why it's so hard to get a casting partner. But that being the case, we're just going to go ahead and get right into this match. As you can see, they're already deployed. We're not going to go too in depth into the units. Maybe as we go through the combat log, we'll talk about them a little bit, but this is, I do believe, a breakthrough mission between Tweezer and Sol Roth, also known as Steve, over on the Mechbay. So you got some podcast on podcast action between the Coolant Pod and the Mechbay podcast. So first up, this is not really an ideal mission for Tweezer. He's got two fast units, the Lightning Attack Hovercraft, which was very popular in this event. I've played against him and seen him in multiple matches. And then he's also got a Mongoose, which is also very popular. It's, I think, an 812 movement profile on the Mongoose, so pretty speedy. And he's also got some staples like a Thug. He's got the Phoenix Hawk Special 1B or C, a Shadowhawk for some reason, and then a Burke defense tank. Over on Tweezer's side, he's got a Kintaro, a Marauder, a Battlemaster, a Hammer Hands, a Mongoose, and a Heavy Hover APC. So they're tied in Mongoose on Mongoose action here. And the Heavy Hover APC is about equivalent to the Lightning Attack Hovercraft. In a one-on-one fight, I'd probably give it to the Lightning Attack Hovercraft. If I'm not mistaken, it's got pulse lasers, and that Heavy Hover APC doesn't really have that much firepower going for it. It might have a little bit more armor, and it's still fairly quick for something that's called heavy in the name. But as you can see, they're moving out slowly here. The Mongooses, or Mongoose, are going to be moving probably their full 12 for both players, or 16 or whatever it is, because they're quite quick. Yeah, they're about equivalently moved up here. And then the Shadowhawk moving up as much as it can. The Lightning Attack Hovercraft making it to the center map, because there is technically 3 different maps, but the middle map is designated. It has to be this middle map, and then the other players could pick their edge map. So it looks like they just went with some simple grasslands maps to make their exfiltration from their map as simple as possible. So as you can see, it's turn 1. There's probably not a lot of firing going on, so we're not even going to bother going to the combat log this early. Usually nothing happens. We'll wait until turn 2, especially on a map that's this big. So, moving forward, this looks like it's turn 1 firing phase. Yep, it looks like Tweezer's just taking out some bushes. And moving along into the next movement phase. What do we have here? The Battlemaster scooches up, the Hammerhand scooches up. I mean, the name of the game is get off the opposite edge of the map. So there's no reason to really leave behind these big, heavy, slower mechs. You want them to get into closer range to try and pick off your opponent's runners. The Shadowhawk's moving up. I mean, these are all pretty, straightforward maneuvers. Kintaro's moving up. Nothing fancy. Nothing really to call out at this point. Except for maybe this. It looks like the Mongoose didn't move very far. It just popped up onto the hill to get vision, because this is a level 2 hill, so line of sight is being blocked. As an observer, I can see everything perfectly, but the players are playing double blind. So as you can see, everything that's grayed out right here is not in their line of sight, at least for that particular unit. So you could see some of his units, but he couldn't see all of them. Now that he's up on this hill, he has visual confirmation on the locations of all of Tweezer's units. But Tweezer may or may not have visual confirmation on all of his units. Like, he probably can't see that lightning attack hovercraft, but he can probably see the Phoenix Hawk, Shadowhawk, Thug, and the Burke, which, isn't really too much of an issue. So instead, these mongooses must have mask, because they moved a lot further that first turn than they did the second turn. So he moved his mongoose up a little bit, probably going to trade fire with some mongoose on mongoose action. And the units you really need to watch out for, at least in this early portion of the game where they're jockeying for position and trying to get their running lanes to get across the map, are the lightning attack hovercraft and the heavy hover APC. All the big heavy stuff are just going to kind of lumber toward the center and hope for the best, and hopefully they can get in a decent position to get decent shots off. I mean, there's really no other way to go about it in a mission like get off the edge of your opponent's map, also known as breakthrough. So let's scooch along here a little bit. Fast forward. So he's going to get aggressive with the lightning attack hovercraft. There are, I think, 2 or 3 medium pulse lasers front mounted on this thing. So it's a good chance to get some good shots onto the mongoose's rear. And it looks like the heavy hover APC is crippled before the firing phase, which means more than likely he failed a PSR while turning and flanking. Oof, he probably ran into some trees or a wall or something. Either way, that heavy hover APC is now crippled and unable to score, which means that Jeff over here, I'm pretty sure Jeff was on the right hand side. I think I've got them right. Yeah, Tweezer's in the red. So yeah, which means Steve over here is up a little bit because Jeff's hovercraft just crippled itself, so he gets combat score there. And then B, that's one less unit he's getting off the board, guaranteed. So his objective score is going to be a little bit lower, especially considering that heavy hover APC was one of his faster units. So now, this time around in turn 2 that we're actually in range to even take some pot shots, we'll go ahead and take a look at the combat log and see if anything comes of it. So here's movement phase. This is round 2. Yep, round 2. Thug misses. Marauder misses. Shadowhawk misses. Phoenix Hawk misses. Kintaro misses. Mongoose misses. Lightning attack hovercraft misses. And the other mongoose actually hits. Tweezer connects on to SolRoth's mongoose. There's the difference. Okay, Tweezer's running the 66. SolRoth is running the 66B, which is the royal variant. So I think it's got like better heat sinks or better lasers or mask or something. Either way, he does take 2 shots. So a little bit of first blood here for Tweezer. Nothing special. Everything else missed. Just a little bit of changing of fire here. So moving along, let's get to the next round here. Okay, as you can see, the status quo has not changed. Nothing, no one's worse for wear here. A little bit of armor got shaved off the mongoose. The heavy hover APC we already knew was jacked up before the firing phase. So now it's just a little bitty turret. Because it can't move, it may as well shoot whatever it's got if it can. So the hammer hands is scooching up. Like, these are all Shadowhawk scooching up. There's not much you can do with these big lumbering slow units that are moving 4-6 or 3-5 or whatever. All you can do is scooch them up. So there's no real finessing to be had here. As you can see, the heavy hover APC, of course, is moved first. As usual, if a unit can't move, you always want to move it first. And SolRoth is keeping his mongoose and lightning attack hovercraft to move in reserve. So he's going to move his Burke, his Shadowhawk, more than likely his Thug next, and then his Phoenix Hawk special version next, and then the lightning attack hovercraft and the mongoose last, because it does look like the initiative this round, I think it may have been Steve. So Steve will get a decent back shot with that lightning attack hovercraft on something if he so chooses, or the mongoose, depending on how aggressive he wants to get, because Tweezer will be able to retaliate with either the mongoose or that battlemaster that he hasn't moved yet. Now, what Tweezer's doing here is he's staggering his units. Let's pull up the pen here. So the Marauder's facing this way, the Hammerhands is facing this way, the pillbox is facing this way. So if anything comes into the rear here of the Marauder, the Hammerhands can turn and blast it. If anything comes to the rear of the Hammerhands, the Marauder can turn and blast it. So they're kind of covering each other's rear arcs to an extent. Also, the Kintaro's rear arc is blocked, although, yeah, you don't really want to not move your lightning attack hovercraft that fast. It would be tempting to get the Mongoose here to try and get the kick on the Kintaro's head. But the kick, I don't think, on a 35-tonner is going to do enough damage to instantly kick the head off of a medium with full head armor. But it's still a good idea to try and get those pilot hits and get those consciousness checks going. So, looks like the movement for all the big units is pretty much wrapped up. So the Hammerhands, the Battlemaster, the Marauder, they're just kind of clustered together. Safety in numbers, herd mentality. The Kintaro's getting a little far from the herd for my taste here, but the Shadowhawk, the Phoenix Hawk, the Burke, and the Thug are all kind of covering each other's backs. Let's see where these last couple of moves go. Okay, so he moves his Mongoose into melee range with the Kintaro. The Kintaro cannot retaliate with a kick, at least. It could punch, and it can also just torso twist and unload into the Mongoose, which is probably what's going to happen here. But he's leaving his lightning attack hovercraft for last when it comes to movement, which means he's going to try and go for a rear shot on something. And Tweezer decides to focus on the objective with his Mongoose instead of going and getting aggressive with it. The Mongoose is a very light mech. It's like 30 or 35 tons or whatever. Not a lot of armor, not a lot of weaponry. And its job in this mission is to get off the map. So Tweezer's taking an early lead here, getting his Mongoose out of dodge. Next turn, that Mongoose is going to be untouchable. He'll be behind this heavy woods and this light forest and home free to score the next round. And you can't say the same for Steve's Mongoose. He's focusing a little more on attacking. I mean, he did win initiative. He did have the upper hand. So he does have that as his prerogative. And after he sees Tweezer run away with the Mongoose, it looks like he decides to run away with the lightning attack hovercraft. So if I'm not mistaken, the weapons are front mounted on the lightning attack hovercraft here. So he will not be getting any shots. The only problem is that Marauder and that Battlemaster, I don't know if the Hammerhands can flip arms. It might be able to if it's got no hand and lower arm actuators. Oh, yep, there's the Marauder taking the shots almost like I can predict the future. But that's just the obvious shot. I mean, the Marauder's probably got terrible numbers on the Shadowhawk and the Phoenix Hawk that are over here. The Thug, probably decent numbers on the Thug. But the lightning attack hovercraft is primed to score next turn, so you want to try and eliminate that as soon as possible and prevent your opponent from scoring. So it's the logical decision. The heavy hover APC taking some pot shots, and it looks like Steve is going to try and focus down the Kintaro with some pot shots. Not great numbers, I'm pretty sure, because the Kintaro ran, the Shadowhawk ran, and the Phoenix Hawk ran. None of the numbers right now are going to be good. The Burke ran and is going to try and nail the Mongoose at a decent range. I'm not entirely sure what kind of weaponry that Burke has, but it's probably like large lasers or a Gauss rifle or something like that, because this is Star League tech. There are some pretty heavy hitting weapons out there. But that's pretty much it for lines of fire. Yep. Let's go ahead and take a look at the combat log for this turn and see if anything juicy happens. So looks like the Marauder whiffs on the lightning attack hovercraft, so it's going to be home free to try and score next turn. The Thug nails the Battlemaster with the PPC. Shadowhawk whiffs on the Kintaro completely. Phoenix Hawk also whiffs on the Kintaro completely with an ER large laser and a snub-nosed PPC. Oof. That's a solid Phoenix Hawk. I didn't even realize snub-nosed PPCs were a thing in this era, but there they are. So he needed 12s on a 9 for the LB10 and 12s on the rest of those. So those were probably his only shots. And then 9s from the Phoenix Hawk. So not the best numbers, and you may as well go for the pot shots if you can. And it looks like Steve's Mongoose gets a medium laser into the CT of the Kintaro, followed up by a small laser. So shaving away, 18 armor remaining in the CT of the Kintaro. Long way to go for a Mongoose. Kintaro, on the other hand, nails the Mongoose with 2 SRM-6s for a total of 6 missiles between the two. So one full streak 6 hit him, which is only 12 damage. So not too much to write about, but he is slowly getting shaved down on his armor. He's only got 5 left on that right leg, which means if he ever gets into a position to be kicked in that right leg by any other mech, he could lose it, or at least get a crit on it. Heavy Hover APC whiffs, needing 11s. Burke Heavy Defense Tank, or Burke Defense Tank Royal, that Steve is running, is got 3 PPCs. That's what it was. Okay, I knew it had a long range weapon loadout. And they all whiff on the Mongoose on 11s. So that's his Hail Mary to try and stop the Mongoose from scoring. He'd have to double up or get a lucky crit in order to immobilize it with just PPC damage. It's not like a Gauss rifle that can almost take off a leg on its own or something like that. And then the Hammerheads nails the Mongoose on 11s, rolls a 12 from Tweezer. Pretty good shot. Not expecting it to hit, but this is why you throw out shots if you've got the heat, because you never know, you might actually nail something. And he destroys the right arm of Steve's Mongoose, which probably only has like a medium laser or something, but he's slowly chipping it down, which means its life, or shelf life, is slowly being eroded away by this incidental damage that he's taking. So he may want to consider scoring with that sooner rather than later, especially now that he's been shaved down a bit. Mongoose takes some hot shots on the Burke on 11s itself and misses. So they're just trading light shows back and forth. And then the Battlemaster for Tweezer, on the other hand, nails the Mongoose with a medium pulse laser. There's 0 armor remaining on that CT as of right now, and he also nails it with an SRM-6, which does have narc ammo loaded into it, interestingly. None of those SRMs nail the center torso, but it's just slowly shaving him down. He's got 5 armor left in the right torso. Oh, I'm sorry, 1 armor left in the right torso at this point, and he's completely open on the center torso. So he's already close to being in force withdrawal, which is not good, but it'll give points for... he can still score if he's in force withdrawal, for reference, but it will give Tweezer combat score if one more attack hits that right torso on the Mongoose. So he kicks the Kintaro, gets internal... Oh, I'm sorry. The Kintaro punches the Mongoose, nails that right torso, 1 internal structure remaining. What do you know? And the Mongoose misses the kick on 7s. So Tweezer's getting a little lucky here, nailing that Mongoose with an 11 earlier, and then needing a 9 again, nailing him with that punch, which you don't expect to land, but it's a free attack, so you throw it out anyway. And wow, the Mongoose is in bad shape. He's now in force withdrawal. 1 structure remaining on that right torso. I don't know if it's got an XL engine, but if it does, it's close to being dead. And if it doesn't, then it's still close to being half of a mech, which, I mean, will still get you scoring points, but is not ideal. And he does not fall from missing that kick. So this was definitely a good round for Tweezer. As you can see in that combat log, did not go SolRoth's way on the dice at all. But the good news is that he can recover from this. I'm not sure why. Oh, yeah, the Mongoose is not in force withdrawal quite yet. Probably because he hasn't taken any internal damage on the center torso, but he's still not in good shape. So the Burke moves up. These are going to be your gimme moves. The Battlemaster moves up. You're basically just going to exchange moving big boys for the next 3 or 4 turns. The Hammerhands moves up. The Shadowhawk actually moves into position to kick the Battlemaster's head, which a 55 tonner will not quite do enough to take off the head, but it will go internal, if I'm not mistaken, if you land a kick on the head. But then that means you just need 1 more little pellet to follow up on the head, and it will take him out. So the Heavy Hover APC, of course, didn't move because it can't. So we're just waiting on the Thug to move up. The Marauder only scooched up slightly, and ooh, okay, this is where it gets spicy. There's only a few units left to move, but let's break down where we're at currently. So the lightning attack hovercraft, instead of making a break for the map edge and scoring early and getting that early lead, decides to instead bust a U-turn and come for the rear of the Marauder, while being in basically short range from that Hammerhands. It's LB10. I think it has an LB10. That's not good. I do not like this move at all. If you're gonna go for the rear arc of something and try to get some combat score, because combat score is based on number of units that are destroyed, not how many, not how much battle value you destroy. You just have to destroy something to get combat score. I would have instead preferred for him to go this way, hide behind this heavy woods and this light woods, so he's out of line of sight from the Hammerhands and the Marauder, more than likely. He may... Yeah, it looks like it'll cross both hexes between both of them. So if he would have gone there instead, he could have taken some cheeky pot shots at that heavy hover APC that have... Because it's immobilized, it would have likely been auto hits with those pulse lasers and gotten some free combat score there. Or slowly started chipping away at getting some free combat score. Instead, he's taken the risky maneuver because that Hammerhands is in short range. I don't like that. That and the Kintaro can swing around to also gang up on that lightning if Tweezer so chooses, which it's currently Steve's turn, which means Steve has to move either the Thug, the Phoenix Hawk, or the Mongoose first. So this was a little preemptive. The lightning was about here and it turned around early to go for this backstab. He should have moved either the Thug first or the Phoenix Hawk before coming in for this lightning. At least in my opinion. If you're going to go for the backstab, you want it to be as clean and safe as possible, or maybe pick off the stragglers to get some free points like this heavy hover APC. So this is a risky maneuver and we'll see if it pays off. He does have like a 4 TMM. The lightning attack is very fast. It is very hard to hit, but at short range, those numbers get lower and more reasonable to hit. So he might only need an 8 or a 7 with his LB10, depending on, or even a 6 if he's a 3-4 on that Hammerhands. So let's go ahead and scooch along and see where the rest of this movement happens to play out. So the Phoenix Hawk decides to gank the Battlemaster, jumping into the rear. So that's not a bad decision. So this is where you get to some interesting decision making. The Kintaro also moved up. It's also going to be able to flank this Thug if it decides to full commit on this Battlemaster, along with the Shadowhawk and the Phoenix Hawk. So he can't leave his rear exposed, but he can get into melee range and point blank just gank this Battlemaster if he so chooses. The Kintaro looks like it's going to be setting up to make an attack run on the Burke and or the Thug. And just in case I didn't mention it earlier, which I probably already did, the Mongoose is on his way out. There's absolutely nothing that can stop him at this point. There's a few ways you can approach this mission. Either you just bum rush everything across the map, like both of them are trying to do right now to an extent. That lightning could have been probably on the edge of the map or damn close to it at this point, just like this Mongoose. But as of right now, there's a kerfluffle in the middle. Or instead of just rushing everything up, you hang back with your entire force and try to pick off the enemy's runners. It's kind of sandbagging, kind of being cheeky, and then hope you have enough time to make it across the map, and you're able to stop your opponent from making it across the map. But neither of the players decided to do that. So I like this. It's a lot more action-packed, a lot more, let's just fight it out and see what happens. And I think wisely enough, Steve decides to move his Mongoose away out of danger and closer toward, so his Mongoose was around here and he decides to move it here, closer to the edge of the map. He has taken a beating on this thing. He's very close to being a force withdrawal and giving up combat score. If he takes any more damage to that center torso or loses that right torso, because that's only got 1 pip left, he will begin force withdrawal. And here he can still contribute, at least for this turn, either on the hammer hands, which is probably in medium range for those medium lasers, or onto the Marauder, which is also probably in medium range with those medium lasers, on his way out. I really hope he doesn't linger past this turn with this Mongoose, just because of how much damage it's already soaked up. If it survives this turn, because that hammer hands may be able to just turn around or flip arms and unload into that Mongoose to try and finish him off. Does only have a 3 TMM, and that is probably short range on an LB10, maybe medium, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the firing lines are. Since we've got them, might as well smoke them. Okay, so as you can see, the lightning attack hovercraft is obviously going into the rear of the Marauder. The hammer hands is twisting around to take shots on the lightning. Where is that Marauder? There we go. The Marauder, the heavy hover APC, and where is it? Where's that third line coming from? Oh, okay, never mind. It looks like the hammer hands is splitting fire. Interesting. So some shots on the lightning, some shots on the Shadowhawk of all things. So the Marauder is also going into the Shadowhawk. So the hammer hands, Marauder, and heavy hover APC are all trying to focus down the Shadowhawk. It looks like the Phoenix Hawk, which is in the rear of the Marauder, is instead opting to shoot at the hammer hands, and the Shadowhawk is shooting at the Battlemaster, which is point blank right in front of it. The Thug and the Burke are also firing at the hammer hands. Probably had slightly better numbers than firing at the Battlemaster, which had a Woods in between. He's also taken a little bit of a shot at the Kintaro, probably with the medium laser or something that's out of range from the hammer hands. Mongoose into the, I don't think that's rear arc, more than likely side arc of the hammer hands. And of course, we already mentioned the lightning. So let's go ahead and take a look at the combat log after I delete my scribbles here and see what happens in this next turn. Because this could be where it gets interesting. Lightning makes 1, 2, 3, 4 piloting checks to bust that U-turn. Okay, lightning attack hovercraft goes into the rear Marauder and only hits the rear right torso twice. Once with the medium pulse laser and once with an SRM. He's down to 0 armor. He takes a shot to the right arm and a shot to the left arm with the SRM and a medium pulse laser. So not too much to write home about. He did open up a rear torso, though, which is nice for future rear attack mining prospects. On the other hand, the Shadowhawk unloads into the Battlemaster, gets a crit chance on the left torso and one on the right leg, and whiffs both of them. Unfortunately, oh no, I'm sorry. He destroys the searchlight in the left torso and whiffs the critical roll on the left leg, on the right leg for a 8 pallet hit. The rest of its attacks whiff on 8s, unfortunately. So tough luck there for Steve. 2 medium lasers and 2 streak 2s all whiff. Hammer hands for Tweezer nails the Shadowhawk with an AC-10 of the right leg. Only 6 armor remaining there. Not a lot of armor on that leg. Interesting. He also nails the lightning attack hovercraft with an SRM-6. That is not what you want to see, because it's also hitting him in the right side table, which is the worst table to be hit. I mean, not just the right side, but the right or the left side are both very bad to leave open to an opponent. And he gets nailed and takes major damage on the very first SRM that hits him. Vehicle immobile. This is why it's risky. So, and he gets another motive crit, vehicle immobile. Gets a regular crit roll, so now the crew is stunned for a turn, so he can't even fire next turn, in addition to not being able to move. Yeah, so he takes motive hits and then an actual crew stun crit, just from one SRM-6 connecting, which is brutal. But, I mean, if you're running a hovercraft, you have to know that's in the cards. You get hit by one little pellet, and you could be literal sitting duck for the rest of the match. The Phoenix Hawk, on the other hand, whiffs for Steve. So it seems to be a recurring story here. Whiffs with the snub nose on 8s and 2 machine guns on 11s onto the hammer hands and the Battlemaster, respectively. The Thug, on the other hand, nails the Hammerhands with an ERPPC, destroys his poor little Searchlight, and he also nails him with another ERPPC, but he hits the left leg behind partial cover, so no damage. Unfortunate turn of events there. The Mongoose does nail the Hammerhands in the left arm and the left leg with 2 medium lasers, so just a little bit of chip damage there. But those two connecting will force a PSR. Battlemaster, on the other hand, connects with the Shadowhawk at point blank range. Needs only 5s on 4 medium pulse lasers, misses with 1 and 7s on a SRM6, and connects. So he's got 0 armor and the right leg remaining, and he's shaving through the torso and arm armor on the rest of those shots. The Burke defense tank, trying to contribute at long range or medium range at this point, 9s on 3 PPCs and whiffs all 3. 2 streak SRM2s also whiff on 12s. Burke hasn't landed a single hit so far, and we're on turn 4. I don't think, anyway. Maybe he hit a PPC last turn, but its contribution has been lackluster. And, I mean, it's not Steve's fault. The numbers just aren't there. The Marauder, on the other hand, unloads into the Shadowhawk, connects with 2 ERPPCs that both hit the CT. So he's down to 3 armor there after taking another 20 damage. And then an AC5 also connects on the right torso. Definitely generating a PSR right there, not to mention all the damage it took from the Battlemaster earlier. Heavy Hover APC connects on the Shadowhawk as well with an SRM4. Nothing to write home about, just shaving more armor off. 1 armor remaining on that CT. Kintaro, on the other hand, nails the Burke with a Narc Pod. Ooh, that can't be good. And whiffs with 2 SRM6s on 9s, but he did connect with a Narc on 9, which will set up for more damage in the future. So we are using TAC Ops taking damage for PSRs, and that Shadowhawk took over 60 damage and fails the PSR on 8s. Oof, that is brutal. He does land on his head, so he takes a pilot hit from there, but he does make his seatbelt check on 9s, or rolls a 9 to avoid the 8 seatbelt check. So he only takes the 1 pilot hit and succeeds in staying conscious, which is good. You don't want to take more pilot hits if you don't have to. Unfortunate that he did land on his head, though. The Hammerhands also makes his pilot check for taking that 20 damage that I called out earlier. He gets 6, so, generating those PSRs is not nothing. Definitely something to look into. Unfortunately, though, the Phoenix Hawk misses with the kick on 8s, and the Battlemaster connects with 2 punches onto the Shadowhawk. And it looks like they both are on the right side table. So because the Shadowhawk fell, they're not going to connect with the right leg automatically. They're just going to go roll on the full body table. And they both hit the right arm, destroying it. So now he's down an arm on the Shadowhawk, which is not good, as you can imagine. And down to 4 armor in the right torso. And remember, he's only got 1 left in the center torso. So that Shadowhawk took a beating this turn. And the Phoenix Hawk makes his PSR for missing the kick. Whew. That was not a good round for Steve. Not in the least. So let's go ahead and get to the map and see what the aftermath of this looks like. So there it is. All right. The lightning attack hovercraft is immobile. It's basically a sitting duck. All Tweezer has to do is turn around with either the Hammerhands or just back up with the Marauder and step on it if he really wants to. Steve's Shadowhawk is prone right next to a very, very angry Battlemaster who's taken hardly any damage. He didn't even take a PSR last round. So that Battlemaster is still basically almost pristine. The Kintaro is about mid-map right now. The Thug makes the first move. Well, possibly the first move. One of these immobile units could have moved first, but the first actual move that matters. And he basically charges straight up into the Hammerhands and Marauder at point blank range. So, and the Hammerhands obliges, moves up 1 hex into head kicking range. That's scary. So I don't know if Steve's trying to draw attention away from his Shadowhawk and or his Phoenix Hawk, because the Shadowhawk gets up and runs down a little bit more to the south, Thankfully, he makes his PSR to get away from that Battlemaster. And the Marauder actually... Did that thing jump? No, it had to have ran. The Marauder moves up to challenge the Shadowhawk's escape attempt. And the Battlemaster backs up into kicking range of the Shadowhawk while the Phoenix Hawk jumps into the rear of the Marauder. So he is focusing on the rear of that Marauder, which is a good decision. You don't want to really bore through the front of that thing if you've already opened up a torso in the rear. So I can't blame him for that one. But then I don't like this. You're getting greedy again here, Steve. So instead of running his Mongoose off the map to try and score, he brings it down to get a few more medium lasers into the rear of the Marauder. I understand why he's feeling like he has to do this. He's basically down the lightning attack hovercraft. The Mongoose is going to score next turn. There's no stopping it. The Burke is still basically out of this fight. It hasn't been able to contribute almost at all, realistically. At least not in a meaningful manner. And that Kintaro is more than likely going to be all over it as soon as he moves that Burke. So let's go ahead and see where these next moves play out to. So the Burke moves up onto this little perch right here, level 1. The Kintaro moves up right into his side arc. The side arc is the worst possible place to take shots when you're a vehicle. That's where you get those free critical chances on the 2-hit chart. Not to mention also motive checks are bad. I think there's a bonus to getting hit in the side, if I'm not mistaken. But that being said, we're in the firing phase. All movement has been seated. The Mongoose is in scoring position. So let's go ahead and pull up that combat log and see how things shake out for Steve and Tweezer here. Right now, I would say Tweezer's definitely got the upper hand, so Steve's definitely feeling pressured to make some of these moves, which is understandable because the dice have not been going his way. So Shadowhawk stands up. The Thug unloads into the hammer hands, nails him in the right arm and the head with an ERPPC. Fortunately for Tweezer, though, he stays conscious for now, and he hits him with 2 SRM-6s. None of those missiles bonk him in the head to finish him off, unfortunately for Steve. But they do shave down the armor across the board. He's still got a lot. That's a hammer hands. That's not a light mech. It can take a bit of a beating. The Kintaro, on the other hand, misses the narc roll onto the Thug, unfortunately needing 9s, but he does connect onto the Burke with a medium laser on 7s. Doesn't get a motive check there, but he also connects with 2 SRM-6s, and you can almost guarantee that thing is going to be immobile. Yep, second missile down. Hits the critical location on the left side. Critical hit on the left side. Roll is 12. Engine destroyed. Burke defense tank immobile. So that thing is basically destroyed at this point. I mean, it's technically crippled, but with the engine destroyed and it being immobile, it can't fire its PPCs. It can't move. I mean, I don't even know if there's any other weapons it has on it, but the turret's now locked in whatever direction it was facing previously, which is more than likely at that Kintaro, maybe forward to shoot at the Battlemaster or something. Not sure. But that basically just killed that Burke defense tank with those SRM-6s connecting. So a little bit of, I wouldn't say, spectacular luck. That's fairly likely that that'll happen because he also got crew stun and, a bunch of motive hits for half MP, -1 MP, major damage, vehicle immobile, all from 2 SRM-6s hitting. He did hit with 11 missiles of those SRM-6s, so that's a lot of chances for crits and motive checks on the poor little defenseless Burke defense tank, or Royal tank. Let's get into the Marauder. Misses the Shadowhawk on an ERPPC on 5s, hits with the other one, and also connects with a medium laser onto the center torso. 14 internal structure remaining on that Shadowhawk. AC5 misses on 6s. He needed very low numbers to hit there and whiffed with half of his weapons. So a little bit of RNGesus coming in to Steve's benefit there. It's still not good. That Shadowhawk is still getting lit up. Speaking of which, the Shadowhawk decides to shoot at the heavy hover APC. Not the one I was anticipating. It's already immobile. Let's see, does he destroy it? Nope, just shaving the armor off the left side. There he goes. He does get through on the left side and destroys the heavy hover APC. So he does, I think, get first blood. I think that's the first unit actually destroyed. On top of that, he gets himself some combat score. So the Battlemaster unloads in the Shadowhawk as well, needing 4s with 3 medium pulse lasers. Tweezer whiffed with 1 of those, surprisingly enough. But also connects with another SRM6. There's a whole lot of crit chances going on here because he's open in the CT and I think the left torso. And he does get a gyro hit on the CT with one of those SRMs. So that's going to be a hefty PSR for that Shadowhawk to make to stay standing. More than likely, it's going to be like a 9 or a 10 just because of how much damage he's taken so far. The Phoenix Hawk, on the other hand, in the rear of the Marauder, only connects with a medium laser and a machine gun. Only hits the right arm with both of those. That is not what you want to see if you're Steve. You need to hit those juicy right torso locations in the rear. Again, with the Mongoose in the rear arc, hits the right arm. Again, there's only 1 armor remaining in that right arm. But who cares? You want the torsos if you're in the rear. And he also hits the left arm with a small laser. That is absolutely the worst possible. Maybe, if he hit, the other leg, which still has 17 armor, that would be the worst possible. But this is close to as bad as it gets when you take rear shots and you go for a gamble, especially with that Mongoose, and it doesn't pay off. You get basically nothing for your rear shot fruits there. So the Burke defense take is for a rebuttal, does connect onto the hammer hands with 2 PPCs, goes internal in the left torso. No crit though to make it really worthwhile. Also connects with the Streak 2 that just shaves more armor off. Hammer hands, on the other hand, whiffs on the Shadowhawk, needing 8s on 2 AC-10s and an SRM-6, and whiffs all 3 shots. Good news for Steve there. Heavy hover APC, on the other hand, does bonk the Thug with an SRM-4 and gets a head hit. The Shadowhawk falls, needing a 9. I think I saw that coming, and oof, 5 damage hits the right rear torso, goes internal into the right leg, and he gets a crit hit. Okay, so you got a gyro hit and a crit hit. That's basically +5 to all PSRs. He's not standing up, and to make matters worse, he takes 1 pilot hit on top of the other pilot hit that he had earlier from failing his seatbelt check, and blacks out on 5s, rolling a 4. That is brutal. So that's basically a dead Shadowhawk at this point. The Hammerhands also falls, taking 40 plus damage, and just bonks more armor off of himself. Nothing really to write home about. Phoenix Hawk misses the kick onto the Marauder. That's the second turn in a row he's whiffed a kick with the Phoenix Hawk that could have made a bit of a difference. The Kentaro, on the other hand, does kick the turret onto the poor little Burke defense tank, which probably is moot at this point because it's not going anywhere. He can finish it off at his leisure. And the Battlemaster kicks the Shadowhawk, actually connects on the left leg on the full body table using the rear chart, because he must have fallen facing the rear to the Battlemaster. That could have destroyed the poor little Shadowhawk outright, but instead connects with his leg, so it's going to take more time, the good leg at that matter, which is going to take more time to finish off that Shadowhawk. A little bit more focus from Tweezer to get rid of it from the map. That does it for the shooting phase. Let's see who wins initiative. It looks like Steve wins initiative. So let's take stock here. Steve's not in a good spot. He's basically got 2 units that are combat ineffective at this point. The Shadowhawk is basically completely dead. The Burke is basically completely dead. It's still there. I mean, it can't move. It can't shoot right now. It's basically done. The lightning attack hovercraft, I think, can shoot. It's just immobilized, maybe. I don't recall whether or not it got engine destroyed. I don't think it did. I think it can still shoot, but it's just not able to. Or maybe he did get engine destroyed, and he's immobilized, and he's also dead in the water. which means he's literally down to just the Thug, the Phoenix Hawk, and the Mongoose. The good news for Steve is that if he can get off the map with all three of those, I think he'll max out the objective score. Because Tweezer's still hanging out with his Mongoose. He could have gotten him off the map and scored, but he's deciding to, run around with him and use him as an initiative sink because there's really no punish for this. So let's see if Steve could pull out a miracle. So some predictions. I'm hoping he turns around with his Mongoose and he jumps up this way with the Phoenix Hawk, or at least runs up this way with the Mongoose to try and cover for the Thug to get around this way to try and make an escape path. We'll see. The Hammerhands has already moved and has stood still, blocking the movement of the Thug, so he does have to go around him. At least that's what it looks like here. So a little bit of a cheeky maneuver there from Tweezer. And the Thug instead moves up to the high ground instead of making a run for it to try and get the objective, and decides to go mano-a-mano with the Hammerhands, which I can understand. You do probably feel like you need some combat score. The Marauder moves into kicking range of that poor little Shadowhawk. The Kentaro stays still to try and finish off the poor little defenseless Burke. Let's see. What else? Only things left to move are the Battlemaster. Okay, don't like this. So the opposite of what I thought Steve would do is what Steve did. He decides to instead bring his Mongoose and his Phoenix Hawk down to continue his rear assault into the Marauder's backside. So it didn't work out with him last round, only hitting that right arm like 3 times. We'll see if it pays off for him this round. I'm not much of a gambling man, but it appears Steve is. So one thing to note, that Mongoose that is basically a couple damage away from being either destroyed or in force withdrawal is in short range of this Battlemaster's pulse lasers. So we can assume he's going to get lit up on like 6s or 7s at most. Not ideal. So at this point, the turns are kind of gonna play themselves out. All the shots are going to be pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and take a look at the combat log. Whoops, there we go. So we're on turn 6, and the Hammerhands makes its standing attempt using careful stand, only needing 3. Thug unloads into the Hammerhands, needing 6s with 1 ER PPC and 2 SRM 6s. I'm not sure why he didn't fire the other one. Might be overheating. He does crit out an AC 10 going internal on that left arm, but that's pretty much it. He's still got a ton of armor. Doesn't connect on that exposed torso from last round. Kentaro unloads into the Burke and just slowly chips away at the armor. I mean, eventually he's going to get through on a location and just destroy it outright. 5 armor remaining in the right rear. Not good. It's only a matter of time at this point. Phoenix Hawk, on the other hand, does connect with the ER large into the left torso rear. That is not the open torso. It is now open because there's 0 armor remaining. And then he connects on the left arm with the medium laser. That's not even the right arm. And then he connects on the right arm with the machine gun. Gets a crit chance, but no crit roll. And then on the right torso rear, there we go. Now we get some luck going Steve's way. He does connect on the right torso with the machine gun, crits out the AC-5 ammo in the Marauder, and that's 2 pilot hits for the Marauder and a torso destroyed. Because he does have case, the Marauder is still in the fight. So now he just needs to get lucky. Either bore through the CT rear with the Mongoose, which he does get 1 ER large laser there, and then a medium laser onto the right arm, transfers to the center torso rear, and destroys the armor. Looks like there's 20 internal structure remaining, so he's still got a little bit of a ways to go to deal with that Marauder and at least put it in the ground. But he does have a now crippled Marauder, so he is going to get some combat score for that. Lightning attack hovercraft unloads into the Hammerhand. So yes, it is not engine crit, it's just a mobile. It can still fire. And he actually goes internal on the left torso. There we go. Twice. Gets the crit on the AC-10 ammo. So now he's taken 3 total pilot hits. He stays conscious, needing 7s on his worst one. But, Tweezer didn't turn off auto eject. So that ammo explosion destroys the hammer hands. I don't even know if it had case. Nope, it didn't. So it doesn't matter. That ammo hit just destroyed the mech outright. So it doesn't matter that auto eject was off, because that ammo hit got him a kill. So that's a good round for Steve. He needed some luck to go his way, and it's going his way now. The Marauder ERPPC rebuttals onto the Thug, doubling up on the center torso with both of them. Only 12 armor remaining. AC5, it's the right torso, 20 armor remaining there. Still a long way to go, but that 12 armor remaining in the center torso is a little concerning. Battlemaster, on the other hand, needs 5s to hit the Mongoose. That is not a number you ever want to see on a light mech for there to hit roll against you. Connects in the left leg, connects in the head. Oof. 3 armor remaining on the head. Connects on the right leg, goes internal. Oh, there's a hip and a foot actuator. Not good. SRM 6 connects on the center torso. Double engine hits. Oh, internal on the left torso. Engine hit. Mongoose destroyed. So he traded half the Marauder for the Mongoose, which, if this were a stand-up fight, I would say that's a decent trade. Maybe not ideal, but at least you got the Marauder, or half the Marauder, for it. But since the objective is get off the map, and he really didn't need to risk the Mongoose there, I don't like that move. And he got punished heavily for it. So there's a good portion of his objective score gone. That could have been easily scored if he had just ran away. But he went down fighting and got himself some combat score for it. Hammerhands, on the other hand, rebuttal onto the Thug. Connects on the left leg, right arm, right torso, just shaving armor. SRM 6 also connects, shaving more armor. Nothing to write home about. Thug succeeds on his 40 damage plus PSR, needing a 6. And the Marauder does as well, needing a 5. Ooh. So he's a 3-3 pilot on that Marauder? Or 2-3 possibly? I don't know. That Phoenix Hawk whiffs on another kick for the 3rd turn in a row, needing only 6s this time. Kentaro kicks the Burke and destroys it. There it is. Hit that rear on the left side, critical, and got through. Battlemaster, on the other hand, kicks the Phoenix Hawk in the left leg. 17 damage to the Phoenix Hawk. Ouch. 3 armor remaining. Hawk is likely to get laid soon. Kick from the Marauder, on the other hand, does destroy the right torso of the Shadowhawk, which explodes the ammo. So now he's taken 4 total pilot hits, and he's gonna fall. Oh, ouch. Wait a minute. So the Phoenix Hawk misses his PSR for the miss kick and falls, and takes the pilot hit for missing the seatbelt check as well. Ooh, that Phoenix Hawk was your only saving grace, and it just bonked itself in the head and failed a PSR from a missed kick. That probably should have landed, because 3 missed kicks in a row on like 7s and 6s is well under par. So that's some bad luck going back Steve's way after an otherwise pretty decent round for him. Initiative for round 7. Let's go ahead and get into it. So we're at the point of the game where things are kind of going to play out in a fairly obvious manner. There's only so much maneuvering that can go on. The Marauder's backing up because it's never going to make it off the map at this point. The Kentaro is making his scoring run because he's probably the 2nd fastest mech on Tweezer's list now that his poor little APC is dead. The Battlemaster, the Shadowhawk can't move. The Lightning Attack Hovercraft can't move. And instead of going to score with the Thug, or at least try to contest the Battlemaster and or the Marauder, like, he was right here. He may not have been able to get into rear arc of that Marauder, but he could have lit up the right side and maybe took out that right arm and maybe got more center torso hits or left torso hits or something. or maybe even legged him, because I'm sure he's taken a decent amount of damage at this point. He's going to try and chase the Kintaro. I don't think I like this decision here. He's staying aggressive. At least he's consistent. The Battlemaster moves up to get front shots onto the poor little Shadowhawk here. And the Phoenix Hawk looks like he uses careful stand, has 0 TMM, and is going to get pummeled by both the Battlemaster and the Marauder. I think he could have gotten a little bit of distance between them. Marauder, if he stood up and walked or ran, and at least gotten to like maybe the side of the Marauder, maybe not necessarily the rear, but either way, there's our firing lines. Thug into Kintaro, Kintaro into the lightning attack hovercraft, Battlemaster into the Phoenix Hawk, and Marauder also into the Phoenix Hawk. And Phoenix Hawk looks like it's going into the Marauder. Oof. All right. So he did succeed at standing up, and maybe he accidentally hit done or something and didn't move after he got up. That might have been a oopsie on Mech, because it doesn't have the most intuitive control layout. So that I'm going to give Steve the benefit of the doubt there and think that he didn't intend to stand still and that he actually intended to move and generate a TMM, and he oopsed it on Mech, which is probably going to cost him dearly. That's one thing Mech sorely needs, is a oops button where you can go back and undo a mistake or redo a move, or like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. At least in the movement phase. I mean, firing phase is also there can also be mistakes in the firing phase, where if you click fire too many times too quick, you can fire weapons you didn't intend to, and it's like, ah, crap, I'm going to overheat now, I didn't mean to. But Phoenix Hawk eats an ERPPC and a medium laser for Steve's crime of not moving him. Goes internal on the left leg. No crit, though. Thug actually connects on the Kintaro with decent numbers, eating only 6s on those ERPPCs. He does generate a crit on the left leg, but doesn't get anything from it. So the dice not going his way there. Connects with an SRM-6, and all 4 of the missiles that hit nail the left arm, which still had a good amount of armor left. The Battlemaster, on the other hand, needs 7s and 6s to connect on the Phoenix Hawk. Misses with at least 3 weapons, but does connect with enough to basically put that Phoenix Hawk into a position to where it's not really going to be as mobile anymore. With a crit onto the left leg, only 7 internal structure remaining. It's the lower leg and the foot actuator, which is not ideal, as you can imagine. The LRM-5 from the Kintaro connects on the lightning attack hovercraft and just shaves some armor off the front end. Phoenix Hawk special misses with everything. 2 medium lasers and 2 machine guns just whiff onto the Marauder at point blank range, needing 9s. Oof. He must have some sort of fire control, or I'm not sure. But, he's probably got arm crits or something. And then the lightning attack hovercraft misses with 2 streak 2s onto the Battlemaster, needing 11. So he's still contributing a little with that lightning attack hovercraft. I mean, it is the unit that destroyed the Hammerhands. So Tweezer is paying a little bit of a price for not finishing it off earlier when it had the chance. And the Phoenix Hawk falls, needing 8s after taking 20 damage, and then leg and foot actuator hits. 0 damage, or 0 armor remaining on the CT rear, and he at least succeeds on the seatbelt check. Kintaro succeeds on his PSR for taking more than 20 damage. Oh, but there we go. Physical attacks, kick from the Battlemaster, destroys the Shadowhawk because it hits the head. Cockpit destroyed. The poor little guy's already dead, so no damage is dealt. Round 8. Looks like Tweezer wins initiative, which is not great for Steve. So we're basically in the end game now. That Phoenix Hawk isn't really going to be going anywhere. The Thug decides to move up onto the Kintaro as his first move from the looks of it. I don't know if I like that one. I mean, he did lose initiative, so he was always going to have to move that Thug before the Kintaro. And the Kintaro could have just as easily decided to go into his rear arc, but he's choosing to try and score and run off the map. Now, after being foot crit and hip crit and taking pilot hits and being jacked up, the Phoenix Hawk is deciding to head toward the edge of the map. A little late for that. And the Battlemaster moves into short range with those medium pulse lasers. Probably only going to need like a 4 to hit. Marauder does move into kicking range of that lightning attack hovercraft in a safe arc, so he won't be taking any damage from a rebuttal there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the firing report. I'm pretty sure that Marauder is just going to kick that poor little lightning hovercraft. So the Thug whiffs on all of its attacks onto the Kintaro that's making his scoring run. Battlemaster connects with 1, 2, 3, 4 medium pulse lasers, needing 5s. 1 internal structure remaining on that left leg, and he does bonk him in the head with an SRM-6, but doesn't get the leg destruction off those SRM. 0 armor remaining on the left torso rear, though, for the Phoenix Hawk. Phoenix Hawk shoots at the Marauder, shaves some armor off the front end, doesn't really do anything useful. 10 armor remaining in that left leg, though, which isn't really going to help him because the Marauder decided to turn around and shoot an ERPPC at him, destroys the right arm, and destroys the armor on the left arm with the medium laser that he still had remaining. Kintaro whiffs on medium lasers on 12s onto the Thug, and the Phoenix Hawk falls because he took 40 plus damage again. Oof. Takes another piloting hit on his third and stays conscious, needing a 7. And the Marauder actually makes his PSR needing 4s after taking 20 damage. So he is a 2-3 or 3-3 pilot at worst. He does connect on the kick against the lightning attack hovercraft, which is still alive for one more turn because it's got 1 armor remaining. So yeah, and the Phoenix Hawk is overheated by 13 heat. The Thug is overheated by 8 heat. Not in a good position. I think Tweezer may have this one in the bag as it stands now. But let's go ahead and see how this plays out and see if Tweezer or Steve can get lucky. Looks like Tweezer finally decided to score with the Mongoose. It looks like the Phoenix Hawk didn't bother to stand up because he's now prone and immobile, which more than likely means he tried to stand up, fell, and either bonked his head or failed something there. So now he can't even fight back with that Phoenix Hawk. And the Marauders just moved to the rear arc of the lightning attack hovercraft. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the combat log here. So, oh, there it is. Movement phase, Phoenix Hawk tries to stand. He falls, needing 7, rolls a 6. Ouch. And he takes a piloting check from the fall, needing a 7 and rolling another 6. Ouch. Now it's on your 4th pilot hit. You need a 10 to stay conscious. He only rolls a 7, and now he's blacked out. That's why he can't even contribute to the battle this turn. So the Thug whiffs on 2 ERPPCs for Steve on 12s against the Kintaro. He's basically home free at this point. The Battlemaster eliminates the lightning attack hovercraft. And that's going to be all she wrote. I don't think that there's anything left that Steve can really do. We're on round number 10. There's still 5 rounds. Potentially. He's chasing down that Kintaro. The Battlemaster and the Marauder are going to gank the poor little Phoenix Hawk. So, and the Kintaro gets away. Yep. That's going to do it. Phoenix Hawk destroyed. And yeah, there's a few more rounds here. And it's just the Thug and the Marauder trading some pot shots here and there. We'll see if Steve can come away with at least another mech destruction. So the Battlemaster and the Marauder close in to the Thug. Oh, whoa, hang on. We're going to have to take a look at that. I don't know what happened there. There it is. Okay. So Thug connects against the Marauder, lights him up pretty good. The Battlemaster and the Marauder actually whiff on their rebuttal. So Steve is now getting the upper hand of these trades. because his thug has basically not taken much damage. He's still in pretty good fighting shape. The Battlemaster is also basically pristine, but that Marauder is jacked up, missing half the mech. So now he loses an arm, gets crits on double heat sinks, bonks him in the head for a third total hit, and he still stays conscious. So not getting any unlucky nap time rolls for Steve here. But so a little bit under par there when it comes to nap times for Tweezer. He's been making all of those 7s. And physical attacks. The thug kicks the Marauder. The Battlemaster kicks the thug. And it looks like the Marauder charges the thug. So he takes 8 damage himself. But the thug takes 23 damage. And he crits out one of the ERPPCs. And 24 internal strikes remaining on the CT. No crit is there. But the thug does fall and takes an engine crit and a second pilot hit, whereas the Marauder also falls and takes a 5th pilot hit. Ooh, buddy. And he's already actually unconscious, so he automatically falls because he already took a consciousness check from earlier. I'm not sure where. How does that work out? So, oh, there it is. He takes 4 damage to the head in rebuttal for his charge and fails the consciousness check. So as he connects with the charge, he goes unconscious and then automatically falls, taking the 5th hit. So that Marauder is only going to wake up on, I think, boxcars at this point. And it's round 14. So Tweezer can either choose to execute the Marauder and get himself a little bit more points. I'm sorry, Steve can either choose to execute the Marauder and get himself some more points. There we go. So that explains what happened there. Battlemaster backs up. Thug backs up. He cannot see the Marauder, so he's not choosing to execute the Marauder. He's choosing to instead engage the Battlemaster in a Mexican standoff. So the Thug... Okay, so let's get into this. Because I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting him to just finish off that Marauder. Battlemaster trades shots with the Thug, misses a significant number of 6s there. The Thug actually connects with all of its shots, an ERPPC and 2 SRM 6s, and he gets an engine crit on attack to the CT that still has 34 armor remaining. So that is not bad. He's going to have to get a little bit more lucky considering there's only one more round left. So decent exchange of fire there going the Thug's way. The Marauder, are you kidding me? Wakes up? What? Needs an 11 to wake up, rolls the 11. Are you kidding me? I can't believe it. Tweezer has had some pretty good luck this game, and that's the icing on the cake there. Unfortunately for him, though, it just means that he's walking into point-blank range of a very angry Thug who does go internal on the CT and gets 3 engine hits and a gyro hit for good measure, destroying the Marauder through engine crits. In return, though, the Battlemaster does go internal onto the Thug. He does get some ammo explosions, 4 total hits. Oof, section destroyed on the right torso. Case does prevent him from being completely destroyed, but he does fall and take the 5th piloting hit. Automatically goes unconscious in the very last round. Oh, the Battlemaster gets the kick onto the Thug and takes him out for that 5th engine hit after destroying the CT with the kick. No hand grenading for the poor little Thug, but Tweezer does finish him off in the end after trading out the Marauder for him. So photo finish there, keeping it interesting, making it action-packed. I do believe Tweezer does come away with the win, scoring with both the Kentaro and the Mongoose. Yeah, a little bit of interesting, a little over-aggressive decision-making from Steve here. It could have gone fairly evenly, actually, if he decided to pull back with that Phoenix Hawk and that Mongoose earlier. He could have scored with both of them at any point in those last couple turns when I pointed it out before that Mongoose went down. Once the Phoenix Hawk failed that PSR and just got lit up by the Battlemaster's pulse lasers, I don't think there was any recovering that for Steve there. And he decided to take that thug and go out in a blaze of glory instead of taking more objective score. But a very brutal, bloody game. I think Tweezer got a little lucky this time around with some of those crits. But then again, so did Steve. Made a good showing of himself, and the vehicles getting hit on the left side, that is their Achilles heel, almost literally. So that is something you need to account for if you're going to be running them. But yeah, well played for both players, and hopefully you guys can check out the next one, and I'll see you in the next event, which is coming up. I think Kerensky Heat is coming up in April. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody put anything on the calendar for March. The 5K3U is going to be heading into the playoff phase because almost everybody's done with all 4 of their initial rounds. So I'll get those out hopefully soonish. But that does it for this match, and I'll see you guys later. Good night, everybody.